Gold.
Gold, and I said gold, let's see, it doesn't mix with anything, it can't do anything, it's nothing,
Going
but
back
it's
to
gold.
chemistry.
I mean, what am I gonna do, am I gonna eat it? So I did, I solemnly
It's not
ate
bad.
gold foil. I have no idea, no memory what was inside it. But I remember sitting there saying, what am I going to do? Am I gonna insult them and say, wait a minute, I'm not gonna eat gold?
Yes.
But, no, but I did.
We had a dinner where we had that for dessert too. I think it was like rose petals, I don't know what was in it, but it was something exotic and here's,
Yeah.
chewed it
I
up.
think I tried to block it.
Remember Bernie? Bernie here? No, Bernie is gone.
Money's gone.
I remember the bus drive into Dubrovnik.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah.
Down from the heights.
Yeah, down from the heights, and it was late at night. And you remember the excitement that occurred as we were in the middle of nowhere, descending in the dark through these Dolomitan hills into, you know, I forgot what his name was, he was our travel agent. Joe. Joe developed chest pains. And Bernie went to the rescue right here in the bus. He and Joe had this, he ultimately determined that Joe was having indigestion as opposed to something else. But that was one of the scary moments for me. And we were in the middle of nowhere, and here was one of the members of the team that was, having significant chest pain. So I was kind of excited. Any more exciting moments?
Just to follow up on the Dubrovnik, I remember there was a group of us, either some of the usual suspects who were handling the bags. And it was very late at night, I don't know, it was 2 a.m. or I can't remember the time, but I remember that after that exhaustion of dealing with those bags, we walked into the town, and it was glistening. There were lanterns at 20 or 30 foot intervals leading down the boulevard to the church, and it had just rained, and the street was glistening. It was like coming from this huge, tiring physical effort and walking into this piece of heaven. It was so gorgeous.
Didn't we have all the bags on a cart?
Yes.
Yeah, there were carts, because you couldn't take a car into the
Yes.
city.
Yes.
The bags
So
on
there
That's
there
it.
were all those who were all walking,
Yeah.
along with these bags on these carts.
Suddenly there was this reward. It was just splendid.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous.
Some of you will remember that Dubrovnik was the subject of intense shelling during the Serbo-Croatian War. Dubrovnik is a World Heritage Site,
Yes.
and my brother-in-law happened to be the UN president, not UN, World Bank president for Croatia. And we visited them first, and then we went down to Dubrovnik after the war and after the restoration. And I don't know, my memories of Dubrovnik are very clear. There was a port, there was a boat, many of us went out to a little island, swam, and then the beauty of Dubrovnik is a no-car, walking-only city, walled city. And the walls have been retained. And the beauty of the walls was that you look down on all of these homes with the tile roofs. All of those tile roofs were shelled and extensively damaged in the war. Happily, post-war, they managed to find the quarry up in the hills that had made most of the tiles original. And they made new tiles, but then they got very creative because the new tiles looked differently from the old tiles. So those of you who know this structure know that one tile goes like this and the next tile goes like this. So they took all the under ones, which had not been broken, they put those on top, so that the color of the city is still beautiful.
Wow.
So you don't look out and see, oh, that one's been repaired. We had 2 or 3 gorgeous days. We went out to the island again, we took the ferry.
Did we do that?
Yeah, and we walked on the ferry. The island is not what it was, but for any who are able to get back to the Adriatic, Dubrovnik is a wonderful city to revisit. And we did it with great enthusiasm, remembering all of our content and this whole business about the carts and your memory. It's still, there's stone in the entire city.
Cobblestone streets.
And we went down to the steps where we sang a concert. Some of you will remember on our record, you could hear the birds that were in the other church next door. But that was one of our most memorable concerts.
And there was the smell.
They are at peace. Remember, the war has ended, and there is the city has been restored, and there's not any further evidence of the danger.
For me, it was a particular delight to go to Dubrovnik because when we were in Dubrovnik, I spent the entire time in bed with a temperature of 103 and a throat that felt like a truck had gone through it. So it was really nice to go back and see what it looked like because I missed most of it. So really nice.
I have 2 quick little stories that have to do with sort of a theme that we've touched on, and it has to do with communication. And first of all, I was so lucky because I was one of the few people that was able to go on the tour as a freshman. So I came out of high school. Debbie Merritt and Phil.
Jimmy Jones.
And Jimmy?
No.
He was the
Jimmy was a sophomore.
Yeah. But to come out of high school and then have Harvard take you around the world, I mean, it was, this was pretty good. But I remember being struck sometimes with measuring, or maybe I'm reflecting on it now, measuring how much I knew or actually how much I didn't know. And I remember when we got to Israel, I made a comment that was completely misunderstood, but I will never forget the strength of the reaction that it was received with. It was the next day, and my host, I think he was a colonel in the Army, or an agent in the Army. He was an important, powerful Army presence. And I said something to the effect of, well, I have to get some money. By that I meant I need to go change some money. I need not some US money, I need some. And he thought I was asking for money. And boy, this spoiled American, wow, did I walk into that. And I didn't even know, because he didn't speak that much English, and I didn't have a towel wrap around. But I never forgot the strength of his reaction to the impression that I made instantly. The second was actually out of chronological order. It was when we were in Hong Kong. And what so many memories that we have. And there was about the possibility of taking a boat somewhere, going out. Yeah. And it was about nearly a mile walk from the hotel to the boat, the ferry. And of course, I had my loafers on that had tassels, and clean pants, and these 4 raggedy girls. They must have been, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years old. They started following me. Oh, Mr., please, you know, surrounding me. Like Schubert's Seine Krähe waren, they were just like coming in. And I said, no. Finally got to the dock. And when they realized that I wasn't going to give them any money, They swore at me, they spat at me, they kicked the ground, they called me every name in the world. Then, again, like a fool, I took out, which was, what was for us about a quarter, which was a Hong Kong dollar. And I gave it to him. Not realizing that there were 4 girls and 1 coin. And they started fighting amongst each other. Someone pulled me in this aside and said, "Don't you realize that they would have jumped in the water for a penny?" And so those are my 2 quick stories.
I have no anecdotes, but I have some remembrances of Hong Kong as well. I had no expectations when we were
The home of the head of our sponsoring organization, Partner Club of Hong Kong. And he was a Scot who was head of Shell Oil for the Southeast Asia. And I stayed in his apartment. He was married and had a 5 or 6 year old kid. And I was doing a fair amount, I was kind of busy, and I wasn't really paying too much attention other than what was going on. And then of course, I came back and we went to Hong Kong, and it was great. Fast forward, it's now 15 years later, and I am teaching at INSEAD, which is the French National Business School in Fontainebleau. And in one of my classes is this guy, and I had this strange vibe, a good strange vibe, and I didn't remember, I looked at the names that are, and he was from Hong Kong. Okay, and at some point, I just, we were just chatting in the lunchroom at INSEAD, and in French business schools they serve booze at lunch. Wine.
It's different.
And we chatted, and the student was the son. And when he realized that I was this guy who stayed there, he told me of how important it was for them and the Harvard Club of Hong Kong at that moment in time, and at that moment in history, that we would bring the Harvard Glee Club there, the Red Cliff Choral Society, to do this concert. And apparently, they talked about it for decades.
Wow.
Decades. And he was a toddler. He knew all about it, and they had photographs, and they remembered the water rationing, the riots, and we were to them a very important event in their history.
That's interesting.
And he was just as amazed that his finance prof was that guy. That I was amazed that guy was the kid. So, we did, in where we went, we did enormous amounts of good work. Yes, we did. We carried a flag. We by our presence, made a wonderful contribution to people that we interacted with, just as they made a great contribution to our lives. And you should all be very, very, very proud of what you did.
Two quick asides, drawing on one. I wanted to remind you all that actually Ben Lagarde was the graduate advisor of our Glee Club. And 5 years ago, Ben has family here in the U.S. And I don't know whether Ben is still living now, but he certainly was 5 years ago. And he actually wrote a letter. I had communicated with him, and I read it to us all. And he was talking about his perspective, what it meant to the Philippine people to have us all live. Fast forward, different stories. Kyoto. I think some of you know that our stay in Kyoto was created musical experience for Kyoto University. Literally, the year after we were there, Kyoto University decided that they needed to have a universal world-class, glee club. Sadly, for our youngsters in the room, they didn't make it co-ed, it was an all-male glee club. But they literally created themselves in 1967. And for those who know the story of the glee club and Bernie really connecting and continuing to connect, 25 years later, 1992, we get a letter from the Kyoto University Old Boys saying, you may not remember, but you sang in Kyoto and you made a big impact. And we started a glee club, and now we have an alumni group that sings in Tokyo and sings in Kyoto, and we get together and do concerts, and we'd like you to come to Japan. So 40 of us, I wasn't actually on that first group, but we began this home and home series. An alumni group from the Glee Club has been there 3 times. They have been here. Each time we've sung concerts in Tokyo and in Kyoto, and when they're here, it's been in New York and Boston. And then in the 2 most recent, most amazing things, we sang in Nagasaki, because the mayor of Nagasaki learned that there was this U.S. Kyoto University connection, and he wanted for a major memorial and an anniversary of the Nagasaki bombing to have Americans and Japanese singing in his city. And he sees his city as being able to tell the world why there can never be another nuclear bomb. We sang in Nagasaki, we sang at the site of the Catholic Church, which was ground zero for the bomb. 80% of the population, the Catholic population of Japan was wiped out because most of the Catholic population of Japan was in Nagasaki. It was a big deal. We were on television. I was the then current president of the foundation. I was interviewed. We had a hearing with the mayor and the city council. It was a huge deal. And then a year ago, February, we rejoined and went and sang at Prague with 40 Japanese men. We went to the museum together. We went out to the Arizona together. We came back, and around the submarine memorial, 40 Japanese men, 40 American guys sang Donna Nobi's Pacha. And then we sang a wonderful concert. So the next gathering, by the way, I mentioned at lunch, is Sendai. We will do a memorial service for the victims of the tsunami in October of 2013. Anyone in this room can go on that trip. Bernie has sent out a recent notice. Think about it. It's a great way to go back, and this will be, singing with the Japanese together on something that matters deeply, very deeply. So, an invitation.
That one's hard to top.
We sang this in Israel.